that cows have 207 bones. That's right, one more than a human. All right, so on Miss Sally here, we're going to start the front. Don't shake your head no. All right, so we're going to start up here at the front end with her big old noggin. Now, a cow like Miss Sally here, to give you an idea, look at her real close. She weighs over 1,600 pounds. All right, now to give you an idea how tall she is, here's the top of her shoulder. I stand next to her. We're even. I am 6 feet 2 inches tall, to give you an idea how large these cows can get. Okay. Now, Holsteins, as Lewis mentioned, they are the largest of all the cows that we use. Her head weighs about 45 pounds. Now, on her head, you'll notice 2 ears, 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth, a chin, a forehead, 2 cheeks, eyelashes, eyebrows, hair, and whiskers. Now, look at her eyes. You'll notice they are down on the side of her head. Why is that? Well, cows are what are known as prey animals. It means they have to be on the lookout for predators. So it means they have to be able to see all over the place. Now, a full circle is 360 degrees. A cow's field of vision, 270 degrees, so extremely large. To give you an idea of what it's like, if we were to make a triangle, put the cow down here, what would happen is everything that she can see is off on the side here, off on the side here, all along the side, way out in front, even kind of off on the side behind her as well. So very important. Her nose, 2 very important roles. Number one, that whole prey thing. She can smell things from 2-3 miles away if the wind is blowing in the right direction. So she's laying out in the field with her friends, and she's laying there and she smells something she doesn't like. All she has to do is signal to those cows. They can get up and go somewhere else. All right. And it also plays an important role in terms of sweating. Now, cows do not sweat the same way humans do. When we sweat, our whole body sweats. Okay. It's not a good feeling. Cows don't do that. Most of their sweat, about 90% of all their perspiration, comes from the end of their nose. All right. So on a day like today, where it's warming up pretty good, and it's a little bit humid here in Costa Mesa, so her nose is starting to get a little bit wet. We see a lot more goo come off her nose. That's all perspiration. Now, her ears play 2 important roles as well. Look at these big fuzzy ears. Number one, they can hear things from a couple miles away. So again, if she's laying out with her friends, she hears something she doesn't like, she signals to the cows, they get up and go somewhere else. Also, those ears play a part in pulling heat away from the cow's body. All right. So again, just like a radiator in a car, it's going to pull heat away from the car's engine. Her ears pull heat away from her body to help maintain a normal body temperature, which is very important. Cows that get too hot, they don't want to eat. They don't want to get up to go drink. They don't like to walk to the milking barn every day, twice a day. They just don't want to do a whole lot. And then at that point, they don't eat enough. They don't drink enough. As we all know, we don't feel right. At that point, they don't produce much milk either. So very important. All right, everybody see? Hey, quit walking. Everybody see the big yellow earring there? That's called an ear tag. We use that for identification on the dairy. Now, here's Centennial Farm. There are only 4 cows, so ID tags really aren't that big of a deal. If we were to travel up north into to the dairies up there, even at Lewis's dairy, he's got over 100 cows. We go up north. Average size of a dairy here in California is roughly 1,500 cows. Can you name 1,500 cows and keep them all separate and tell them apart? No way. That's why we use those tags. Miss Sally has her number, 12759. Now, behind her head is her neck. Neck ties into the spine. We also call it the backbone. Very important to have a strong backbone on a cow because that's what holds the body up and supports a lot of it. Then we have her shoulder, which we have right here. We come down here a little further, bicep, tricep area, a little further down there, forearm. Behind the forearm in the tricep area, well, we have her elbow. A little further down, we have her knee. Here in the middle, 13 bones on the right, 13 bones on the left for a total of 26. Those are her ribs. Do we have ribs? We do. Where are they? Right here in the middle. Are your ribs important? Yes, they are. Number one, they protect your internal organs. Heart, lungs, liver, kidney, stomach, all them squishy parts inside. And number two, they help support the body so they give you structural support so you can stand up straight and strong. Now, as we move a little further south, we see this big bone right here. Now, the most popular question I tend to get when I visit schools with a cow is, Mr. Miller, what's that big bone sticking out of the cow? Well, take your hands, put them right here where your waist is. You're going to feel 2 little bones right there. Start with letter H. Those are your hips. This is Miss Sally's hip. Are your hips that large? Not even close. They ever going to get that large? No matter what anybody tells you, no. Now, why are her hips so large? Why do they stick out to the side? Well, look at the size of Miss Sally, 1,600 plus pounds. And why do they stick out to the side? Well, think about it like this. When she is producing milk, which right now she's what we call a dry cow, but we'll get into that a little later. When Miss Sally produces milk, she is a very good producer. Her udder may have 40, 50, 60 pounds of milk in it at any one time. When she walks, it'll swing side to side. Now, if her hips are real narrow, her body's going to do this. As she walks, she's not very stable. So those hips stick out to the side to give her that stability. It's kind of like when you see a crane with those big things on the legs on the outside, supports all that weight. All right, same thing works with her pelvic bone back here. Her pelvic bone and hip bone work together. And then we get to the business end of the cow and we see her tail. Okay, she'll swish this tail around all over the place. Okay, like a built-in fly swatter to get rid of flies. Now, I know you've had flies in the house or flies in your folks' car. They're kind of annoying. Now, take the flies that we have on farms, and there are a lot more of them. They bite. So that's why she uses that tail to get rid of them. Underneath the cow, it's her udder, spelled U-D-D-E-R, and that is where she makes all of her milk. So that's a very important part of the cow. And then she's standing on her 4 feet there. Where was we finish off? We call those feet hooves. Now, she has 4 hooves. Each hoof has 2 toes. We call those claws. 4 hooves, 2 claws each, for a total of 8 claws. Now, also on the back of each leg, right above the hoof, there are also 2 claws there. Spelled dew. It's called the dew claw, spelled D-E-W, and they really don't do much of anything at all. All right, so we're going to send you back out to Lewis, and he's going to talk to you about feeding cows.
All right, well, thank you, Steve. Well, here we are where the cows are currently being brought into the barn. So pretty soon, these cows are going to get all washed up, clean, and milked. Now let's talk about what do these cows eat. It's so very important for us to be organized here on the farm and to have a nutritionist to make sure they get the right recipe. They'll get all the right vitamins and minerals, which is very good for their body. Now, here we have a variety of things, but I do want to show you a picture out on the fields where the cows are able to go out and graze much of the feed. Now here at this farm, there's about 20 acres, and the cows are able to go out and into the pasture area and graze much of the weeds and grass when it's time of the season. Once they graze much of that, well, they're able to come back and we feed them a variety of things. They sound pretty exciting today. So here we have some grain. Now, what is grain? Well, grain gives the cows a lot of energy, a lot of carbohydrates, which is good for their body because they need energy to make all that milk. In this grain, we'll think of it like almost like a trail mix. There's wheat, there's barley, there's bakery waste, there's even cottonseed. People ask, well, what is that? Well, farmers grow cotton out in the field to make clothing such as this. And the cottonseed we cannot consume as humans, but cows can because they have a very special digestive system. There's also almond hulls, there's corn and coconut shavings. So quite the mix. And this gives a lot of energy for these animals. Here we have some barley, and barley is very good for energy as well. This was given to us by places where they make drinks, and they're called breweries. They also use this barley to make things like hand sanitizer. Pretty interesting, right? Well, there's much of it that gets left over, and it either goes to the landfill, the trash, or they ship it to the farm, and these cows can recycle all these grains that are still very useful. So there we have our grains. Now let's talk about hay. Hay is a plant, grows out in the field. It grows very tall. The sun gives it energy. The water and soil give it nutrients. There's many different types of hay. There's wheat hay, grassy hay, oat hay, timothy hay, and alfalfa. Well, this one is called oat hay. As you can see, there's some oats on the stem, and the oats provide a lot of fiber. We need fiber for our bodies, and so do cows. It's very important to help break down all the feed in their body. Here we have the most important hay of all, and that's called alfalfa. The reason why it's so important is because it has a load of nutrients. Things like protein. Protein for our body helps our muscle fibers. Same thing for the cows. We got to make sure they're strong, and we also give them calcium. Calcium is good for their bones. As was mentioned, cows have 207 bones, and they have quite a few teeth too, so we got to keep them strong with calcium. And that's what's within this alfalfa hay. Maybe you've seen this where horses or goats or other animals eat it as well. Here we have almond hulls. Almond hulls are the very outside part of the almond. Now, farmers in Central California grow quite a few almonds and pistachios and different nuts like that, even walnuts. Almonds, you'll see the almond on the very inside, and then you'll see the shell. Then you'll also see the almond hull on the very outside. And that we cannot eat as humans, but cows, again, they can because of their rumen digestive system. So it's very interesting how they can digest feed that we cannot. So we feed them almond hulls, which is something in a form of a byproduct or a way of recycling things that will either go into the trash. Here we have fruits and vegetables, which we eat, of course, as humans. Cows eat too. They love fruits and vegetables, and this was given to us by other farmers. Farmers will grow this out in the field, and much of it may not make it to the store. And that might be because of the shape or the size or the color, but it still has all the same nutrients. So instead of throwing it in the trash, well, they ship it to the farm before it expires. And cows, well, they love this. It gives a lot of vitamins, and there's some natural sugars. It's very sweet for their palate, so it's very good for their body. So we feed them a variety of things, and we mix it all together. Once it's mixed all together, it's called a total mixed ration. And this is the equipment we use on the farm to mix it. We definitely don't use a fork or a spoon because that would take a sure long time. We use tractors and trailers. And inside that big green trailer you see on top, there's huge blades that chop up all the feed. Once it's all chopped up and mixed together, then it'll be ready to be poured. Now, once it's ready to be poured, well, that's when we use the other tractors to pull the trailer, and we pull it to this area called the manger. Now, I do want to pick up some feed so you can see what it looks like. This is called the total mixed ration. Actually smells pretty good. There's hay, there's grain, there's fruits and vegetables all mixed together, and that's what we feed our cows. Now, where does all this feed go? Well, to their body, of course, and it goes to their stomach, and this is where it gets really interesting, how they can break down feed. So we're going to go back to Steve to teach us about that.
All right, here comes the interesting part of digestion. Now, cows, we got to look at all the stuff that Lewis has there and what he showed you, what we feed cows. A lot of byproducts. Cows are very good upcyclers. All ruminants are. In fact, cows are ruminants, and that means they have one stomach and 4 separate compartments. Okay, it makes them very good upcyclers. So things like all those almond hulls and cottonseed hulls, citrus pulp, all those extra fruits and vegetables that are coming from the farmers and the stores, all that stuff will wind up in a landfill. We don't want that to happen. So dairy farmers doing their part for some sustainability to keep things out of the landfill so cows can use those. So it helps lower the feed bill. So we're going to use them. How does a cow digest all that feed that they're given? A lot of that stuff's big and bulky. If we tried to eat it, we wouldn't digest it very well. It just doesn't work out for humans. Okay. So cows, first off, how do they get their feed into their mouth? Well, they use their tongue. As you see, they don't have any hands. And even on their front feet, they don't have opposable thumbs. So it'd be kind of hard to hold a fork and spoon anyway. So they use their tongue. Their tongue's about 12 to 14 inches on a cow. And it's very rough, just like a piece of sandpaper. Okay, now, allows her to reach down and grab a bite of feed out of the feed bunk. It also allows the cow to do some personal grooming to help get rid of dead hair that she has on there. And that will help keep her body temperature again cool. Very important. Just like your dog or cat will do, especially as the weather warms up, you'll notice they'll groom a lot more because they're getting all that dead hair off them. Now, teeth. Does a cow have teeth? Yes, they do. How many? 32 to be exact, just like a human adult. 24 teeth on the top and bottom and the back called molars. 8 incisors on the bottom front, on the bottom front here. No teeth on the top front part of her mouth. It's a big empty space called the dental pad. All right, so if that's the case, think really hard. When we chew our food, we chew up and down, we smash and break our food, we swallow. Now, ruminants, on the other hand, they chew differently. They chew in a circular motion that looks like they're going side to side. They're grinding and tearing. All right, so she will grab a bite of feed with her tongue, push it to the back of her mouth where the molars are, start chewing side to side so she can grind it up. As she does that, she is going to swallow it. It goes down her throat, into her stomach, and here's where it starts to get just a little tricky. All right, now on your screen, you're going to see the ruminant digestive system come up. It does move a little fast, but don't you worry. I'm going to walk you through every compartment step by step. Compartment number 1, we call that the rumen. It's going to be the green one on your cow there. That's called the rumen. It is the largest compartment of all 4 compartments because it is the only compartment that holds feed and water. No other compartment holds water in the rumen, or excuse me, in the ruminant's digestive system. So you see how large it is on a cow like Miss Sally here? She can eat 50, 60, maybe even up to 80 pounds of feed a day and drink about 50 or 60 gallons of water. Her rumen is going to hold about 45 gallons. So there's no digestion taking place there. It's all microbes and enzymes, basically just starting to break things down, getting what we call the fermentation process started. All right, so from there, it's going to go right down here to compartment number 2, which was the yellow one you saw a minute ago. That is called the reticulum. Now, the reticulum is a big filter. As it finishes in the reticulum, here comes the cool part. She is going to regurgitate. Now, what does that mean? That means she's going to bring a big chunk of feed about the size of a big orange. It's going to come out of her stomach, up her throat, right back into her mouth, and she is going to chew it a second time. Now, when they do that, that is called chewing their cud, spelled C-U-D, chewing their cud, not chewing their crud, so don't confuse the two. Now, when a cow chews her cud, we know she's happy, we know she's healthy, and most important, we know her digestive system is working right. Now, she is going to chew her cud for several minutes, and then it gets better. You know what she does now? She swallows it again. Now, this time it does not go the reticulum, does not go the rumen, does not go the reticulum. It goes to compartment number 3, which we call the omasum. Now, the omasum is really just a big sponge. It's going to absorb all the water and moisture back into the cow's body, very important. And in that point, all that feed comes down here to compartment number 4, called the abomasum, where it is finally digested. Now, once her feed is digested, all the good stuff goes to work. Protein and calcium for strong bones, teeth, and muscles. Vitamins and minerals, very important to keep the cow strong and healthy. Along with that, you might imagine a cow like Miss Sally. Look at that big cow. She needs an enormous amount of energy as well. All right, how many of you think cows are mammals? Yeah, how many of you think mammals are warm-blooded? You got it. Normal body temperature of a cow, 101.5 degrees. Now, compared to our body temperature at 98.6, well, the cow's almost 3 degrees warmer. So if we were to touch a cow, would it be warm? A little bit. What if we take milk from the cow? Is the milk going to be warm? It sure is. Right out of the cow, milk is 100 degrees. Look at it. Good scratch on the head there. Okay. All right. So do you like your milk 100 degrees? I don't blame you, not unless you're making hot chocolate, right? All right. So we got a cow here. She's making milk. That means she's a mother. She's a mammal. She's got to have a baby. All mammals must have a baby before they can make milk. So in old Sally's case here, we call her baby a calf. Okay, spelled C-A-L-F. A little boy called a bull calf. A little girl called a heifer calf. Average size of a bull calf or of a newborn calf, well, 50 to 80 pounds or so. You saw that earlier with Lewis. Okay, they grow very fast. So by the time they turn 2 years old, they are full grown. At 2 years old, our heifer is going to have her very first calf. Once she has her first calf, we don't call her a heifer anymore. Now we just call her a cow. So for the next 10 months, our cow is going to give milk twice a day, every day for 305 days. We call that a lactation cycle. While our cow is lactating, we're going to call her a fresh cow. We call her a fresh cow because she's making fresh milk. At the end of that 10 months, our cow gets to go on a very well-deserved vacation for 2 months. For those 2 months, she does not produce any milk. She's going to lay around, do a whole lot of nothing, talk to the other cows, play tricks on the farmer, go out and make some TV commercials for some summer money. For those 2 months, we call her a dry cow. We call her a dry cow because she's not making any milk. So, easy way to remember it. Cow does 10 months of lactation, then she gets 2 months of vacation. At which point she's going to start over and have another calf. So that repeats every year, as long as she has at least one calf every year. But can a cow have twins, triplets, quadruplets? It's possible. But thank goodness not very often. It is most common. We like it when they have just one. All right, everybody buckle up. You're going back out to Lewis to learn how to milk cows.
All right, well, thank you, Steve. Well, I'm going to show you where I'm at first really quick. I am at the water trough area where the cows are able to consume and hydrate, which is very important for their body. Now, cows will drink maybe a bathtub full of water, each individual cow, and think of it like 30 to maybe 50 gallons of water in one day. It helps break down all that feed, and it helps with milk production. Now, let's talk about milking cows. Here at this farm, we milk cows twice a day, just like many other farms. Some of the cows that just went into the barn, they're going to get milk, and these cows right after will get milk in about 1 hour. Now, after they get milk, there'll be 12 hours in between, and they'll get milk once again. Now, years ago, how did we milk cows? Well, we used to use our hands. Now we use machines. But first, before I teach you about the machine, I want to teach you how to milk cows with your hands. Just in case you ever get a chance to go to the farm, you'll know how. Here's how we're going to do it. Raise 2 hands in the air, just like this. And then go ahead and make a fist and give me a thumbs down and grab your thumb with your other hand. We're going to practice. Now you'll see a little video pop up as well to teach you. What you do is you squeeze the top of that thumb and then you roll down your fingers and give it a tug. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, tug, and you start over. Use your thumb to squeeze 1, 2, 3, 4, tug, 1, 2, 3, 4, tug. Just like that. Now to milk a cow with your hands, well, that would take maybe about 20, 30, maybe even 40 minutes, quite a bit, because a cow has one large udder and 4 different quarters on it. So there's a machine that's been designed some years ago, and this is called the milking cloth. As you can see, it wobbles around, and that's because it's made out of rubber on the inside. The outside is a harder plastic shell. The inside rubber piece is very soft. We want to make sure that it's very comfortable for the animal. Air will go in, air will go out. You'll see milk go through this glass chamber, and then it goes through a big tube. It ends up going to a big tank. Now, before we put this on, we got to make sure the machine is clean, and we got to make sure our cows are clean. So we actually give them a shower. Well, we like to call it maybe running through the sprinklers. Well, here at the farm, there's this area called the wash pen. And that's where many of those cows recently went. They walked up to the wash pen area, they get all cleaned underneath, and then they'll be ready to be milked. Here you'll see cement with grooves in it so that the cows do not slip, so for safety. And you'll see a lot of sprinklers. They got covers on them so the cows do not hurt their ankle, also so the sprinklers do not break. Now, once they're washed, that water goes to the drain, and it gets pumped out to that field where you've seen all that green grass and weeds. So we use recycled water, which is very important to use on the farm. Now here's a little video. You can see the cows actually walking in to the wash pen area. Now this is currently happening now in the farther end of the farm. The cows are walking to the barn. Here you'll see a lot of black and white Holsteins, and then you'll see their udders are very full. You'll see a brown Jersey walking across there too, smaller in size. And you might even see some orange marks on the cows. That's done by the veterinarian. Lets us know the health of the animal. Now, once they're in there, we close the gate, they wash up, and then they're clean. They walk into the stalls. And in the stall area, it's called the milking parlor. And here at this farm, they can milk 22 cows at the same time because they have 22 machines. You'll see a grandfather and his grandson working here that day with 11 cows on the left, 11 cows on the right. They can milk 22 cows in about 10 minutes. Much, much faster than doing it with your hands. Now, after those cows are done being milked, they open the gate and they all run outside like they're all going to recess. And then the next 22 cows come in to get milked. Now, here's a process you'll see in motion on how it's done. Their sprinklers are turned on. After that, the cows are waiting their turn. Here they are chewing their cud, all cleaned up. Their udders are full. They walk into the stall when it's their turn, and here the milk technician washes them down. You'll see the udders very full of milk. Then he puts iodine, it's sort of like a hand sanitizer, wipes it off, and then proceeds to put the milking machine on. Now the machine stays on because it works with a vacuum system. Once it's on, it basically helps massage the milk out. And you'll see it go through the glass chamber there. Once it's going through the glass chamber, it gets pulled through the hose, goes to a big tank. Here you'll see the udder is empty. There's no more milk. But once it's empty, the cow will start producing milk once again in the body. After that, the milk technician puts iodine once again before the cow leaves the barn. Now, let's talk about the milk and where it goes. Now, we know that the cow's body temperature is very warm, so the milk comes out very warm. But we don't want it to stay warm all day. So what we do is we put it in a big tank called the bulk tank. And it's like a huge refrigerator. This tank here holds 2,700 gallons of milk, quite a bit. Once it reaches to the top and it's full, it's already at 38 degrees cold. And to keep it cold is very important. That way it stays fresher for a much longer period of time. Now, we've learned about what these cows eat. We've learned about their body, how they make milk, how we milk them, the machines we use, how it gets to the big tank and make sure it's cold. But how does it get to your store? And how does it get to your school? Well, we're going to go back to Steve, and he's going to teach us about that journey. Steve?
All right. How does milk get to where we need it to go? We use a truck. To be more precise, we use a tanker truck. Tanker truck holds about 6,500 gallons of milk. It is insulated, just like our metal water bottles and cups that we use to keep our drinks cold. That's how the tanker truck works too. And you'll see it coming up on your screen here shortly. You'll see a tanker truck that is going to be hauling our milk from the dairy to a place we call a creamery. There's our tanker truck driving down the road there. You may have seen some of these going down the road. They look a lot like those tanker trucks that haul gasoline. There's a few differences, but other than that, they kind of have all that same premise. Again, keep that milk cold, keep it safe. There you see somebody taking a sample of milk out of that tanker truck to test for safety and quality. And then once it passes the test, they hook up that big hose to the back of the truck and pump that milk right on into the creamery. What is a creamery? It's a big processing plant that turns our milk from a raw product into a consumer product. Now, 3 things need to be done to our milk before we get it at our school, store, or restaurant. So when you look at a milk container next time, look for these 3 things. Step number 1, we are going to pasteurize. Now, an easy way to remember the word pasteurize, take your hand, put it right here in front of your face, and then you run it pasteurize. All right. Now, when we pasteurize milk, we're going to take our milk that is 38 degrees in that tank, and we're going to run it through some heated tubes and gradually heat milk up to 160 degrees for 16 seconds. All right. And that's going to make sure our milk is safe to drink or make dairy products. It also gives the milk a longer shelf life, and then very quickly cools it back down to 38 degrees. And you see it working right there. Now, from there, we move on to step number 2, which is our $5 word for the day. Step number 2, we are going to homogenize. And basically, that is blending 2 things together so they will not separate. And that's what happens with milk. You see that red arrow there pointing out all those big chunks in there? Those are called milk solids. About 20% of all your milk is made up of milk solids. The other 80% is made up of water. If you let, excuse me, getting choked up here. If you let raw milk set long enough, what happens is those milk solids will float together, make a layer of cream, float to the top. The water goes to the bottom because it's heavier. We don't want that to happen. So once we know what we're doing with our milk, we have a machine called a separator, pulls the cream off the top that we don't need. They use that to make other dairy products, butter, ice cream, cream cheese, so on. All right, what we have left is going to get taken, and you saw that big cylinder come up. What it does is it takes that milk and all those solids and hits them right up against the top there. As it does that, it breaks those solids into tiny little particles. Now everything will stay mixed together. Third and final step, for making whole milk, we had vitamin D. Vitamin D is very important for several things. Number 1, it helps your body absorb all the nutrients that milk has to offer us. It also does help with the immune system as well and some body function. And if we're making reduced fat or non-fat milk, we also add vitamin A along with the vitamin D. Good for the eyesight, very important for the immune system, and it also helps out with body function as well. From there, your products go into a container, then it gets loaded into a refrigerated truck, and we send that out for delivery. Now, those of you that are getting your milk at school, your milk will arrive at school before anyone else's does. That's right. Usually within 24 hours or less, 48 hours or less from the time that the cow is milked, your milk arrives at your school. You get fresher milk than anyone, which I think is pretty cool. All right, we're going to send you back out to Lewis, and he's going to wrap things up, and then we're going to answer a few of your questions.
All right, well, thank you, Steve. So as you've heard, milk does go on quite the journey, and milk is fully loaded with nutrients. Now, we got to remember, what is it like to eat healthy? And what's important to eat healthy? Well, milk's full of protein, full of calcium, many different vitamins, good for our immune system, good for our growth. But there's other foods as well we want to make sure we follow. So let's go to our food chart and understand what they are. Now, we have 5 food groups. On top, you're going to be able to see that we have dairy, things such as cheese or yogurt, which are my 2 favorites. 2 of the more healthier ones. Of course, there's whipped cream, sour cream, ice cream. You can name quite a few. Maybe a tall glass of milk in the morning. Very good for a good start of the day as well. Now, underneath the dairy, we have fruits and vegetables. Now, many of us, we have a favorite fruit or a favorite vegetable, but it's good to try different ones because there's loads of vitamins within. Fruits and vegetables help with our immune system. It helps with our skin, healing our skin. It helps with our hair. It helps with our eyes. So make sure you make your plate colorful with fruits and vegetables. Now, underneath that, we have grains. And the grains we mentioned is very good in carbohydrates. Here we'll see, actually, the fourth picture is the grains, which carbohydrates helps for energy. So make sure you have plenty of those because we need energy to get outside. And of course, exercise. Try to do it at least 1 hour a day, move around. Then at the bottom, we have protein, which is very good for our muscle fiber growth. In protein, there's nuts, there's meats, there's fish, there's certain vegetables give plenty of protein for our body. So make sure you're consuming the right ones. Now, I'm very excited to come to you live from a real dairy farm. Looking forward to some questions coming up. So we're going to head it back to Efren.
All right, thank you, Lewis. Thank you, Steve. Great job in teaching us where our milk comes from. Teachers in the chat, I'm adding a link to our after assembly curriculum. If you need something to finish the school year and think about math, reading assignment, just like Steve mentioned, click on that link now, bookmark it this way, it doesn't disappear, and you can do some extra stuff related about cows. All right, first question for you, Steve. And if you have any more questions, put those in the Q&A and I'll be saying those over. Steve, you mentioned those cows had claws. Are there sharp, pointy claws, or what do you mean by a claw? I thought they were hooves.
They are hooves, and that is it is very confusing. I trust me, I get where the question's coming from. It is kind of confusing, but we call their foot basically a hoof. Okay, spelled H-O-O-F, and the plural would be hooves, H-O-O-V-E-S. Okay, so but because they are what we call cloven-toed or split-toed or split hoof, we call each one of those two little individual pieces there, we call those a claw. And so if you can get a better look at it there, you can kind of see, if I put you around the front, you can kind of see how those two little toes are. They just call them claws. They're not sharp claws like, say, a hawk or a cat or a dog or a lion or a tiger would have. They just call them claws. That's just a term they use for.
Perfect. Adrian would like to know, how many cows are there? So I'm not going to focus on the world here. Let's focus on California. How many dairy cows do we have in California?
Very good question. In California, approximately 1.3 million. As a matter of fact, in the United States, the number of working dairy cows is somewhere around 9 million.
Oh, sorry, I'm talking and I'm muted. Let's over to Ontario. Lewis, how do cows stay cool? Where are you at, and how do we protect our cows?
Definitely a great question. Well, California, number one, is one of the best states for weather. Some of the other states could be very, very cold, and that's when they build big barns and the cows can be inside. But here we have shade. So I'm going to turn this around, and you're going to be able to see long, maybe 200 yards of shade where the cows can stay underneath. So it's very important. So after they eat and they're out in the sun, they love a little bit of sun. Once in a while, they'll come over here and they'll stay in the shade, relax, rest, and then they'll go to the barn, actually get a shower, nice and cool. And there's a lot of farms that have misters as well if it gets way too hot. Now, if it gets very cold, well, here in California, it doesn't snow too much in certain areas where the cows are, but they all like to huddle together. It helps them stay very warm. So that's what comfort is a very important part. One more thing I want to mention is if it rains. Now, it's very important to make sure the grounds are very well taken care of. So if it rains, the rain falls and actually goes to the side of the corrals, and it gets pumped out to the pasture area where you've seen all the green grass and weeds.
Awesome. All right, Zoe would like to know from Mr. Barrington's class, what got you working with cows? How'd you get involved in the ag industry?
Well, great question. I was somewhat born into it. A family tradition of it. For years, a family business within my family. So I've learned about it as a younger kid, and I've learned about many other things as well. But the family still wanted to invest in it, and they've always enjoyed cows and providing milk for the community, and even making cheese, which is fun once in a while.
All right, awesome. All right, Steve, question for you. Why do cows make milk? Now we know how, and we learn the quality of it, but why is it that a cow makes milk?
Well, just like every other mammal, whether it be humans, dogs, cats, horses, buffalo, deer, sheep, goats, they produce milk mainly to feed their offspring or their babies. Okay, in her case, to feed a calf. But the cool thing about dairy cows, they produce way more milk than their baby could ever consume. So we are able to use that milk as well for our nutrient requirements throughout the day to help give us all the nutrients we need as well.
Awesome. Now, a student from Ms. Caulfield's class had a great observation. They said, well, you mentioned we feed fruits and vegetables to these animals, but I don't see that in the feed. Why can't you identify all that stuff in there, all those commodities that you're talking about?
And that's a very good question, because it all looks like a big pile of grass with some chunks in it when you look at it. Well, that has to be because when we put it in our feed mixer that you saw when Lewis was showing you what we feed, all that machine, that big mixer wagon has big, what we call augers, look like giant screws with blades on it. And what it does is it chops everything up. So the hay is the most abundant item that we use, okay? And when we make up our dairy feed, there's more hay in there than anything. So that's why it looks like it's a bunch of chopped up grass. But in there also, we put our vitamins and our minerals. We'll put some corn, some oats, all that the baker waste, all that brewery waste, the fruits and vegetables all get thrown in there, and it all gets chopped up so the cow can chew it up.
All right. My favorite question coming from Miss Willie's class. What happens if a cow eats metal? She picks a piece of wire or a screw. What can happen, Steve?
Well, if we have something, or the cows can get something we call that hardware disease. All right. And so what do we do to prevent that? Okay. We can't always tell what's in the feed. We can't always see it and stop it. So as it goes to the rumen, if that piece of metal goes to the reticulum or the omasum, abomasum, it can cause some problems. It can cause some lacerations or cuts in there, which causes that hardware disease, and the cow gets sick. And then we have to have a doctor look at the veterinarian. So what we will do is we will actually take and put a magnet, and then hopefully when I'm done here, Efren may have an example one because I can't find mine. All right, so we will actually take and put magnets down in the cow. They're about, probably about the size of my forefinger here is about the size of a magnet. We'll put it down in there. It'll come down here into the reticulum. And so that magnet will lay there, and anything that's metal comes in will actually get picked up by that magnet, and it will not work its way through the digestive system. Therefore, we don't have the issue of hardware disease.
And yes, you are so lucky because I do happen to have a magnet with me. So this is what a cow magnet looks like. And we're going to go back to Steve, and he's going to put his finger close to the cow's stomach. And is this going to matter in a cow size? Not at all. So let's pretend your finger is my magnet right in there. Look at that. Teeny tiny
right there
to that cow's size. So yes, we do give them magnets, and that prevents hardware disease. All right. Had to put you on the spot there. How many calves can a cow have in her lifetime, Steve?
Well, that is a very good question because it depends on how long the cow lives. Now, average lifespan can be 8 to 10 years. So let's say she has her first calf at 2, like she should, and she has one every year like she should up until, say, she lives to be 10 years old. That's going to give us 9 calves over the term of her life. And now, if she has twins or triplets or something, obviously going to be more. If she lives to be 15 years old, obviously there's going to be more. So a lot of it depends on how long the cow lives and how many calves she has every year.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Steve. Thank you, Lewis. Great job in teaching us everything there is to know about cows and where our milk comes from. Here at Dairy Council, it's not just about teaching you and reminding you to eat healthy, but where milk comes from, but reminding you to eat healthy. Visit our website, healthyeating.org. Sign up for our Let's Eat Healthy movement, and we will provide you with everything you need to teach healthy eating. Not only that, at the end of this webinar is going to be a quick survey, and please let us know how we did. Did you enjoy it? Did you learn something? Did you make that connection between agriculture and where our food comes from? Last question that came in, how do you find these cow magnets? Well, any big ag supply will have them. And for a cow, it's just like a normal vitamin pill that we would take. In comparison to body size, that little magnet, our big magnet, is very small for them. All right, so thank you very much, students.